you follow the opportunity or do you follow the passion? There's two schools of thought about that. And both of my mentors, my spiritual teachers, followed their passion. The first one was a successful bodybuilder in Brazil, and he felt the calling to do something different. He had read about a yogi in New York called Yogi Gupta, and we're going back now about 60 years because now he's 85. He had read about this yogi, and he sold his business, gave his family the money, bought a plane ticket, hopped on a plane, came to New York, and became an apprentice and eventually the right hand person to Yogi Gupta. He traveled with Yogi Gupta to India, to the Himalayas, New York, and his dharma or his life's purpose was to teach yoga. He said once he understood that, there was nothing else that he could do. Did he get rich off of it? Absolutely not. But he was able to give money to build schools in the Himalayas in India to help the less fortunate and to promote yoga throughout the world. My other mentor, Rick Jagger, who has now transitioned, took a little different approach. He wrote a book called Create the Work You Love. His philosophy was that if you follow your passion, the money will flow, that you don't worry about security, you don't worry about money. Although there was one little glitch in that because he was a professor at one of the major universities in New York of comparative religion. And he kept that job to allow him to be able to do more writing, to speak all over the country, to do things, to promote people following their passion. And that's what he did. He too gave a percentage of earnings from the university to programs, yoga programs, schools, again, in India and different parts of the world and Africa to help people out that were less fortunate because he felt that by following his passion, that was his dharma or purpose. The other school says, no, you want security. There's uncertainty. There's chaos. Why on earth would you want to do something like that? Take the opportunity. And from that opportunity, you'll find your passion. We don't all know what our passion is. Who cares? Just follow the opportunity. And in a moment, I'll go to our guest after my introduction. Our topic today, as you could tell, is do you follow the opportunity or the passion? I am Teresa Palmer, interim host of the Own It platform on Motivational Mondays. And I'm author of the book, Heal Your Heart from Within. Have I followed my passion? Most of the time, yes, because my passion was always the heart, but it took years of cultivating it to really get me into what I was most passionate about, the heart. And that although I practice traditional cardiology, I also work with women on transformation. And that's really what I found my passion to be over a period of about 25 years. And with that, I'll turn it over to, I'll let Jacqueline introduce herself and she could start the conversation.
Thank you so much, Teresa. It's a pleasure, as always, to be here with you. I'm Jacqueline Brown, also known as Serafina Elion, Wisdom and Fire. And that's not some mystical woo woo woo. That is part of who I am in trademark as the sovereign leadership architect. So I spent over 40 years as a global technology executive leading large scale transformation. And today, believe it or not, outside of corporate and technology, I kind of do the same work, but from the inside of us as humans out. inside out. I work with high capacity leaders, particularly women, who have already achieved success, but they know something deeper is required to sustain it. My work focuses on what I call internal architecture, how a leader thinks, decides, regulates, and aligns. Because no level of external opportunity can compensate for internal misalignment. And so when I kind of think about it, I don't just help people grow, I help them restructure how they lead and how they choose, and then how they build so that their success is not just visible, but it is actually sustainable. So now, Teresa, this is such a great conversation. I love the story that you just shared. Unfortunately, I don't have the testimony to say that I followed passion first, because I know what it's like to follow opportunity first and that not be your core passion, and what the results of sometimes the misalignment can be, and coming back around to your passion and actually experiencing how our passion will make room for us. It will provide the opportunity. When we think about what we're talking about today, I don't think there is a problem with opportunity versus passion. But speaking from experience, I think the challenge that we have is when there's misalignment versus discernment. And sometimes people are not necessarily challenged or even suffering because they followed an opportunity, but sometimes we suffer because we followed an unfiltered opportunity where we didn't allow that check to say, is this my passion? And when you follow an unfiltered opportunity without understanding, then we end up with questions like, well, who are we? How are we really wired? And what are we really called to build? Because sometimes that opportunity is just not lining up with us. So hopefully, our conversation today will sort of disrupt the mindsets that are listening just a little bit, because I really don't believe that the real choice is if you go for an opportunity versus a passion. But what I really do believe is that whether a person has an internal clarity to discern the right opportunity, or if they follow the opportunity without alignment, which is what I did at one point in time, and you become very successful, which I was, and you also become very deeply unfulfilled all at the same time. Now that's a tough place to be. You've got the success, and people are looking at you like you're like cuckoo, like, oh my god. I literally would have people say, I want to be like you when I grow up, and they were already adults, but that's a cliche. Ooh, I want to be like you when I grow up. And I would look at them and say, if they only knew, because I wasn't following my passion. I was following the opportunity, because the opportunity was meeting an immediate need. And I'm going to say at the time, I wasn't mature enough to see the long-term strategy. I was looking at, okay, this is going to fill an immediate need. But the main need is, what was I going to feel on the inside? And here's the thing, the beautiful thing about following passion. When you follow your passion and you make sure that you bring the structure, you will feel alive. And you're absolutely right. The money will follow. It may not follow in that main moment, but as long as you remain consistent and effective in pursuing the passion, the money will show up, because what we put into this universe, and this is why the passion is so important, those are the things, I truly believe, those are the things that we're going to reap back. Teresa, I'm going to toss it back to you, and give us what your thoughts are. That was such a great story you shared with us.
Yeah, you talk about alignment. And I think part of the problem, and I see it especially with women, is we're taught to be in our head. We're not
Yes.
taught to align the heart and the head.
Right.
So what you have is success is superficial
Right.
because success is outward. We're told if we do X, Y, and Z, we could become successful. And that's true. You
Hmm.
can. But
Hmm.
there's that little voice that I think nags a lot of us. And I know before I started my spiritual journey, and that was 21 years ago now. Yeah, 20. No, it was 25 years ago, 26 years ago. We're in
Hmm.
2026. And I was I was fortunate enough to be with two spiritual masters that really understood that the heart holds wisdom, that you have to align the heart and the head, and you can't just run off and do something foolish. You can't renounce the world, but at the same time, that we're all here for a purpose.
Hmm.
And the only way we could understand that purpose is to invite our heart into the process of everything. And I think that's what's missing. And that's to me what transformation is all about, how you get lasting transformation. And that's how I work with women on it, is really listening inwardly, starting inwardly, and from there, everything then blossoms out. If you look at a flower, if you look at a rose, it's a tight bud. So it blossoms from the inside out. That inside, there's enough pressure on the inside of the rose that it causes it to open. So it's starting from the inside and it's expanding. And I think that's where all of us need to start. So instead of just being in our head, we need to be in our heart and our head, get them into alignment. And as far as opportunity, I think a question to ask yourself, it's a question to ask yourself every day is what am I feeling now? And that's the best question you could ask yourself. What am I feeling now? Whether I'm at work, whether I'm at play, doing something, what am I feeling now?
Hmm.
And if you're not feeling good about it, whether it be work or play, something is missing. You may be doing something out of need, and that's okay. There's nothing that says that you can't do something out of need. But
Hmm.
at the same time, once you recognize that, supposing you're in a job and you say, okay, I have a mortgage, I have this, everything's expensive. This is what I need to do. Once you could acknowledge that, you become aligned. And from there, you could find it's like life starts to happen for you, not to you.
Hmm.
When you're misaligned, you see yourself as the victim. Oh, I'm stuck in this job. I hate this. I can't get out of it because I have to pay a mortgage. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have three kids that want to go to college. Okay, but once you become aligned and you realize that this isn't where you want to be, you could start to find solutions. Maybe your children could get a job and help themselves pay for college. Maybe they don't have to go to college right away. Maybe you don't need a bigger house. Maybe you could go to something smaller. Maybe there's a way to save a little bit of money. There's always something that we could do to help ourselves. And we don't realize that until we're in alignment. Yes, it's true. You may have to stay at that job another 3, 4 years or whatever until you could find a way out. But nothing says that you can't start exploring your passion in the meantime. What really lights you up? That's another question to ask yourself. What lights me up? What makes me feel so good that if I could, I would do this all the time, 24/7?
Hmm.
What is it that lights me up? And then from there, how could I incorporate that into my daily life? And sometimes hobbies become passions. Sometimes a hobby or a passion turns into a career. But I think there's also times that perhaps it doesn't. And or partially, and I think my spiritual teacher, Rick Jarrow, I think he was a perfect example of that, where Sri Dharma Mitra renounced the world, gave up everything, hopped on a plane, not knowing what was going to happen, coming from Brazil, not even knowing how to speak English. I mean, what a journey. And to do that 60 years ago when yoga really wasn't popular,
Mm,
it wasn't mainstream. That's the path that he took because he felt so strongly in his heart that this is what he had to do. And that's how he got the name Sri Dharma, Dharma. Sri is a respect for a master. Dharma is what you're here on earth to do. That wasn't his birth given name, certainly. And Rick Sharrow decided to take the other route where, yes, he did have a family to support. He had obligations. He had a position at a university. But that position as a tenured professor also gave him the opportunity to take what he was doing with comparative religion and expand it into creating work you love, into a spiritualism, into yoga, being able to take trips and take students to India, to ashrams, to be able to practice Eastern traditions. So he used his position and his money to also further his passion, which really was like the best of both worlds. So that's something else to think about, that when you follow your passion, do you have to just follow your passion, give up everything? Eh, Yes and no, but I think now is the perfect time for entrepreneurs. I think it's the perfect time because there is such chaos, and in that chaos comes opportunity.
mhm.
So people out there right now, especially young people and people in their middle age too, I'm not disregarding that, have that opportunity now to really do what they love and make something out of it because there's so much chaos that you could create something wonderful and some magic out of that chaos. So I think on one hand, people should take that opportunity to follow their passion because this is the time of uncertainty is really the time when things take off and in the midst of chaos. But on the other hand, do you need the security? Yeah, it's kind of hard to go through the world right now. Things are expensive. It may not be the time. So I think you have to find that balance. And I don't think there's any one right answer, but I think it starts with what am I feeling now? And also, why was I afraid of what I was feeling? Why am I afraid of that feeling? Why can't I express it? And really delve into that. So those are the two questions. What am I feeling right now? And why have I been afraid to feel that? And that opens the door to aligning the heart and the head. And between the logic and the inner wisdom of the heart, the logic of the head, the inner wisdom of the heart, you will come to the answer that's best for you. I'm going to turn it back over to you.
That was just really great, Teresa. And, as I'm listening to some of the things that you're saying, and you spoke about how sometimes it's difficult for women. And that's because many times, especially when we're in this corporate world where we've been given book after book and lesson after lesson of the way that we are supposed to lead or the way that we're supposed to handle certain things and how we're never supposed to let any kind of emotion or don't make things personal. And there's all these different little rules that don't necessarily fit who we are at our core. at our originality. And that starts tapping into divine and feminine energy and masculine energy. And we don't always have to be all the way in a box to an extreme because that's what everyone else is doing. And then there's the opportunity that we can integrate the passion. As you stated, it may not be, the time may not be there in that moment, but we can start integrating those things into what we are doing. And we'll find that we'll be far more fulfilled. Sometimes integrating our passion into what we are already doing in daily life, because the passion is who you are at your core. That's your real authenticity. And when we allow that to come in to what we are doing on a daily basis, there's a fulfillment where we're already starting to integrate and transition into what our passion is. And then the opportunity for us to completely transition over will be there for us. It's I think it's more about developing first the internal architecture. And when we develop that internal architecture, and I'm speaking the heart, we're just using different language. I have a tendency to speak in systems terms. It's just 40 plus years of being in technology and engineering. But the internal architecture, when we develop that and get out of, as you said, the head and what's always logical, and recognize which opportunities are actually assigned to our life. Because there are opportunities that are our passion that get assigned to our life. We just have to be able to recognize them. And sometimes it's not as difficult as we may think, because everything is not, that's available to us is not necessarily meant for us. So there may be lots of opportunities that come along, and we take those opportunities for a lot of different reasons, but that may not be exactly where we're supposed to end up strategically. Then you think about everything that you feel passionate about in a given moment is not always meant to be pursued in that moment at scale. And the power of knowing the difference. When is it time for me to pursue my passion at scale? And when is it time for me to begin to integrate, begin to do all of the inner work, do the heart work? And I think when we go into a deeper expansion of who we are, and when we ask ourselves, well, is passion only internal or can it be external? It can be external too when we actually are allowing ourselves to integrate and bring these things into alignment. When I think about how important discernment is, when you speak about the heart, discernment comes from our spirit and from our heart. It's what's tugging at us. And I've seen people follow opportunity, build really great careers, but internally feel disconnected, exhausted, and sometimes out of place. Now, that was me. I had great opportunities, and I built the career that I had. And believe you me, it was impressive when you have global responsibility and you are across cultures and have a worldwide responsibility. But there was something on the inside that I still felt disconnected and I still felt exhausted at times. And it wasn't anyone else's fault. It was because of my inability to activate my discernment, to really understand how do I take the internal transformation And how do I integrate that in to my everyday life? And all of a sudden, when I was able to do that, when I was able to apply the discipline and put a strategy to what I was feeling and where I wanted to be, those cycles of starting and stopping, and well, this is not really it, those began to end. And then eventually, you end up with, okay, this is what I'm really meant to do. This is why I'm really here. So, what I would say to those that are listening, um, make sure that you're seeking internal clarity, and make sure that as you're seeking the internal clarity, that you're allowing yourself to stretch beyond where you are. You're allowing yourself to align with your core design of who you're meant to be. Doesn't mean you're going to abandon everything that you're doing right now. It means that you're integrating and you're preparing for what your next is. And your next very well can be where your passion is, where your passion lies. And following your passion, it can pay well. Following what makes you feel good about what you contribute, it can pay well. It's just having the correct structure and the right alignment as we go through. And I like what you said, Teresa, about entrepreneurship. This is a time of opportunity. And I don't teach people to chase opportunity. I don't teach them to chase passion, because they don't really have to. But what I do teach them is to build an internal structure from the heart, strong enough that you're evaluating both. Because when your internal world is in order, you don't have to chase the opportunities. You are able to select them, and very often they will show up and come and select you. I'll pass it back to you, Teresa.
Thank you. We just have a couple minutes left here. So I think you have given closing words. That's very good. And, again, there's plenty of opportunity out there. I think nowadays, people, especially young people, understand that there's multiple careers, that there's not just one career path, because, you look at even technology. Wow. I mean, when you look at all the technology that's out there,
Hmm.
all the advances, how it changes day after day. It's really phenomenal. And the
Yes.
whole world is changing. Everything is changing. And with that comes so much more opportunity to try different things.
Hmm.
So I think that, yeah, you could try different opportunities. And I think you have to try different
Hmm.
opportunities. I don't think there's just going to be one opportunity. I don't think there's any more staying at a company for 50 years, getting a gold watch, getting a good pension, and life's going to be beautiful. I don't think that's the way it is anymore. I think that now it's going after different opportunities, finding your passion. The main thing is doing that inner work of what am I feeling now and why have I been afraid to feel it?
Mm.
And then adding, what can I do about it?
Hmm.
How could I take this opportunity perhaps and turn it into a passion? Or how could I take this passion that I have and turn it into an opportunity? Because I think there's always somebody out there that needs what gift that you have to offer the world. And again, I can't say it enough. It's a balance between the heart and the head.
Yes, it is.
That you need that internal ancient wisdom of the heart, that intuition, that inner knowing that gives you, it's like a GPS. It just kind of pushes you in the right direction. But you also need the head. You need that logic. You need that control. And you just don't want to jump into something that may be very difficult to get out of.
Hmm.
So again, it's alignment between the head and the heart, using both of them to discern. Yes, follow the opportunities, Perhaps there is your passion in that opportunity. If there isn't, then keep following opportunities until you find your passion. If you know what your passion already is, and you know in your heart what you were here to do on earth, start creating a structure for that. Start looking at it and saying, how could I make it viable? Who out there needs what I have to offer? And I think that's the bottom line. People out there need what we have to offer, whether we're going after an opportunity or whether we're going after that passion. There's no right, there's no wrong answer. But the only answer is alignment. Be aligned. Heart, head, internal, external. And that way you live the best life you can. So thank you for joining us today. I hope that you got some insights from this to those watching and to those who will watch the replays. Take what resonates with you. Seize those opportunities that resonate with you. And we will see you next week. Have a good week, everyone.